It'll happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome
Hi.
back to Caffeinated and Curious. Thanks so much for watching our first episode.
Yes.
We really appreciate all of your comments
Thank
and
you.
feedback and all that stuff.
Thank you so much for the comments. Thank you for the messages you've sent. Keep them coming. Any questions you might have, our links are below, and so definitely send them over.
We have our second episode coming out really soon, and we're going to talk all things community. So it'll be a pretty wide-ranging conversation about like our experience in community, what we've observed in community. So it'll be a really fun, probably talk about a lot of different things.
Absolutely. You won't want to miss it. So stay tuned. This is Caffeinated and Curious from our community. We'll be talking about some more community. So see you then. Salud. All right. Oh, you're already recording? How many times does Iris?
Always recording.
Okay, what are pasteles? Pasteles are a traditional Puerto Rican dish served best by themselves, but you can have it with rice. Totally fine. Going to Puerto Rico, visiting my grandparents meant having pasteles. Now granted, pasteles are really savory and they're a meal in and of themselves. But for my grandparents, it was an appetizer. You had two because they come in pairs, a junta. And so they would give you the two, they would serve you two pasteles before the full meal, which can include pork chops, rice, salad, potatoes, plátanos, all that stuff after. But we enjoy them just by themselves. So Pasteles Reyes was born out of that, out of my grandparents' recipe, out of visiting them in Puerto Rico and helping them make pasteles as well, learning how to make them now, and then now having my own children make pasteles just like my grandparents used to do. It's about 4 generations of recipe, and the flavor is out of this world. First of all, I've changed it a little bit so that it's healthier. I use gluten-free organic ingredients. I make the freshest sofrito, and if you need to know what that is, go on the website and you'll figure that one out, but it's herbs and spices. And so what you end up with is a firm but not too hard, very soft and savory pastel with pork. You can have it with chicken, I serve it that way too, or with queso frito, which is fried cheese filling, or you can have it vegan. But either way, what you're gonna have is a pastel, is a masa full of flavor, ingredients like sofrito, achote, which is annatto seed oil, and adobo, which is a combination of oregano, turmeric, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. It's amazing, you're gonna love it, and it freezes for up to a year, so you have meals for days for the whole family. Click on the link below, you're not gonna wanna miss it. All right, so today we're talking all things community. This was a really good conversation that we had over the phone. And I really did start thinking about it months ago. I was speaking to a friend, and she was telling me how in her own group I think it was on one of the socials, and they were looking at what are the top things that people in that particular community were most interested in. And she said that it has shifted, and what they're really interested in right now is looking for a church. And I was like, what? Like, I just didn't.
That's not what you were expecting.
Not at all. We're in Jersey. You see churches everywhere. There's one like in every, certain amount of miles. And so I just didn't think that that was a problem and that people were searching for that. So I thought that was really interesting. I think beneath that was the need for relationships. I mean, what do you think of in what you've read and seen out there?
Yeah. I think definitely community is something that I've noticed that people are looking for, and I think we're in like a time where people are very guarded about who they, or maybe not guarded is the wrong word, but I've noticed that people are kind of a bit more guarded about who they let into their lives and who they don't. And I think there's a lot of discussion and like culture about kind of protecting who you have in your life and who you don't have in your life and all of that. So I don't know. I think there's like this really big but like desire to be seen. And that's one of the things, or maybe the thing that community is providing is like a chance to be seen.
Yeah.
So, and like seen and not rejected.
Yeah, right.
You can be seen and rejected, and
right.
it's really wild.
That feels horrible.
Right, and you're always
That's terrible.
You're always looking for that place where you're going to be seen and
loved and accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it, and that's just, I feel like, essential human interaction,
Right.
and desire, and one of the reasons that we are social.
Yes. Yeah. And then in this day and age with social media, that's just kind of like highlighted that need, but it's also exploited it sometimes. And then you also wonder whether we've lost ourselves a little bit in what actual relationship can look like, or community can look like, right? So all those things. I mean, it's this topic is huge. We could talk about it in so many different ways. But I think one of the main ways that we were saying, because it's something that matters to us, and it's one of the ways that we see this topic, was our values and what they're based on. So perhaps that can be kind of like the starting point. Like, what actually defines community for you based on the values that are important to you. And so that might be different for everyone. But I think for us specifically, we wanted to talk about it from that perspective of what we value the most.
Yeah. I mean, so I think at base, it's actually maybe, I'm trying to figure out how
to put it in.
Articulate that, yeah. Yeah, I feel like at base, going back to this whole, sense of wanting to be seen and loved for that, and loved in spite of it. I don't,
right.
Right. I think one of the things that has taught me the most about that is my faith and our faith tradition, being Christian. And I think that is a really interesting perspective to have, because I feel like it is very difficult right now to say I got something positive out of our faith tradition.
Right.
Not that I don't think that's possible, clearly, or anything like that. But I think there are a lot of people who have very much experienced the opposite. And it's not like I can't even say I have experienced, wouldn't say I've ever experienced the opposite, but just have not felt fully comfortable in every Christian space or space that is said to be Christian that I've been in. And so I think what it comes down to, or what has motivated me in this area, is going back through the Gospels and really watching how Jesus did community and what how he lived his life.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, I'm trying to think of just moving towards people and constantly being concerned with not using his influence for his own benefit. And all of those things are really, they really foster a community that is welcoming and a place where it's not about you. You're not, it's not a self-seeking place. It's a place of service for everyone.
Which isn't, that's kind of like juxtaposition, right? Because you're looking for community, which means togetherness, but then it's at the same time, it's not about the individual,
right,
but it is a communal, individual type of thing. I also wanted to say how even if there is no, church experience, from anybody watching or from anybody listening, even if it's not coming from that place, there is something to be said about the community of faith, right? Of whatever it is and however it looks, that has spoken into culture and humanity forever. And so it's so vital to who we are as people on this earth, and wherever you land on that. But I think giving our perspective and going, sometimes in the rubble is where you find like that treasure, so something like horrible happens, and then you start, as time goes on, you start to hear all the great things that happen within that experience. And so, yeah, I've had great experiences, wonderful experiences, I think, that overshadow the bad. But yes, I've gone through very difficult things in church life. But there's something just beautiful and powerful about that community. But I think that as it has evolved in my own life, I've realized that it's not centered in the building church or in the church building, right? In the system of church life. It's actually just part of my life, wherever I am and whoever I am with. So I think that connects, right, a lot of the different perspectives where you say we're coming from a perspective of faith, and we can see how that really speaks into everything else in our lives, whether it's work, friends, school, everything that we do, and in our homes and everything. And it doesn't have to be one way. There's all these other ways, and I just love hearing other people's perspective on it as well. And so I love that then you're starting from there, because we get to show that and say, we are people of faith, and we're not these like isolated, we're over here, you're over there, we really do desire to have a community that uplifts, encourages, that, wants to listen to the other person, wants to be seen and see as well. And the fact that Jesus is at the center of that, is something that even if you don't know, you've heard. And if you haven't heard and you find out, it's a beautiful thing, So I just wanted to express that for whoever's not coming from that perspective.
Yeah. I think this is the thing. I was listening to a sermon recently where the pastor was really emphasizing that the church was not supposed to be a building. When Jesus is talking about it in the Bible, when he's talking about it was just recorded in the Bible.
Yeah.
When he was talking about it, he used the word congregation or assembly. It was never church. The translation has been changed. As you translate, you have to change words and things like that. But a more accurate translation would be assembly or congregation. That's meant to come together to accomplish something. So this group of people that's supposed to come together to accomplish something, or some things.
Right.
And one of those things is that you're meeting together to care for one another and encourage each other and all of those things. So I think in that simplest of senses, it's hard to argue against wanting that.
Yes.
You don't want a community of people that are going to help you out and encourage you to be the kindest, most loving, most whatever version of yourself that you can be.
Right.
And call you out if you're not doing that, or ask how they can help you grow as a person. And then just legitimately in service to others.
Yeah. Right.
So
it all sounds so good.
Yeah. I think, and it's hard to think where that got lost in the midst of things, because I think it is harder to think. It's harder for us to think of church in that way. I don't know if that's American or Western in general or anything like that, but I don't. It's community is supposed to be that way. So,
and we could get to culture also,
sure,
because that that definitely speaks into the life of Jesus. There was a culture that was a big part of what his life and how he lived his life here on earth. But I think when we shift into where did that get lost, we talked about emotional maturity, right? Emotional health is sometimes out there. But emotionally as people, like where are we now? Where obviously we talk about community as it should be and we're going, oh, it's good and it's nice and it's this. But most of us are experiencing community and having gone through some really tough times, right? And I think what I've observed, at least in my lifetime, is there's no longer a capacity to deal with the hard stuff. You know, there's no longer like patience and, you know, people use tolerance, you know, but it's just patience, and I'm not going to give it the time, and I'm not going to give it the attention. It's almost just too awkward to enter a very tense situation. Confrontation is like, you know, oh my gosh, I have to learn how to do confrontation. So I think emotionally as people, and granted, we've gone through a lot in the past 5 years.
Sorry,
Bless you. We've gone through a lot in the past few years, and that has affected our, you know, how we relate to one another. It was a long period of time. So we're still, I think, recovering from that. But I think even before that, something huge would happen, whether it was global, national, local. And the way people responded said so much about where we were relationally and in community.
Sure.
So I think now when we look at that, when I look at it, what I have seen is the inability of like, can we have that hard conversation? You know? And I know that for me, the relationships that have stuck are the ones that we've gone through stuff that was embarrassing, that was like messed up, hurtful, sometimes had that time of separation and then came back to it. And it's like solid. Like there's something like we've grown in something. You know, so I know it's not the same in every situation, but still, is it worth, if we see community as it should be, right? And we say all these great things, is it worth the fight? Is it worth sticking to it? Is it worth working some of that hard stuff out? You know?
Because, I mean, community, as much as I was talking about it in a positive regard before, it's not always beneficial. Like, not in the sense of, like, you're not going to be... It's not you that's receiving all the time.
Right.
You have to...
Okay, yeah, in that literal sense, yeah.
Right. So it's not like... I think it is beneficial for you to sow into something and give and all of that. Like, that's beneficial to you as a person. But I mean, the sit back and like, I'm just going to receive and take and whatever.
Yes.
So I think there's like that conversation that kind of comes to mind of like what is your posture in this community? And then what is a healthy community? Right. And then also like when you are in a community that you feel like is a good community for you to be in, that emotional health that really comes into play of like, how am I handling myself when things are hard, and how do I not just tap out immediately when something makes me either uncomfortable or something legitimately happens that's wrong. Yeah. Because I don't know, I think about this in the case of relationships, like friendship, romantic, whatever it may be. There is no perfect relationship where you don't get hurt. Yeah. Inadvertently, intentionally, whatever it is, like that's just not right, and you have to accept that. Right. And I don't know, I do wonder if like people have for some reason that expectation that they are going to find the perfect community that's going to be not hurtful in any way to them. It'll like a utopia kind of thing.
Right. Maybe, the expectations need to be assessed. You're like, well, what am I really looking for? I think that's where church goes wrong, where the expectation is we're good. This is a good place, and this is where you're going to find all these great things. And, the truth is we're just people, and we're working stuff out. And we change, and there's just, it's dynamic. And so I don't think there should be, or I don't think that community in church is necessarily something that's just this positive sort of advertisement of great things, and so, we should be more real about how we consider community in the faith, in a faith perspective. But I think in general for people, for all of us, is to really look at, like you said, what is the expectation, but also where am I in this time and place, where whether I'm seeking community or whether I am in one, where am I emotionally in this? Am I able to show up as real me, be myself? Can I be just the quiet person in the corner and not make anybody else feel uncomfortable about that? Can I be the, flamboyant one and everybody's just relax, Are we accepting each other as we are? I think that that's a huge thing. And that takes time to cultivate. That takes intentional really reaching out and getting to know people to do. But I think that that's where we really need to think about making space for that and be that for people. So instead of going as a consumer into these spaces, organizations, churches, groups, whatever it is, we should look at it as, well, what is this? Ask the questions, figure it out, and is it the place that I need right now, or that that will be there for me, or that I can be part of? I wonder if we thought about it just a little bit deeper, and really took the time to get to know people and let them be themselves, whether that would shift, that would change what community looks like. I wonder, where have you seen the best community for you?
Oh man. Best community.
I mean, it could be like a general term. You have to be specific.
Yeah. No. I mean, I really enjoy our community here when we meet at your house on Sundays. I think that is a place where I have found the ability to feel like I am being myself and be open and vulnerable with everyone here. And I think everyone feels the same way, which is really, really nice.
There's no stress and tension, I have to prepare these things.
So it is interesting that we started this conversation and shared that it was from the perspective of faith, and then you did comment and say, I know that that's hard to talk about right now because the environment is so church and Christians and all that stuff. And I get it. But
it's not unwarranted.
No, exactly. And I get it, and absolutely. I mean, I have faith. I'm a person of faith, and I am. A lot of people that I speak to, it's a lot of times I'm like, why do they do this? And I wouldn't sound like somebody who's on the team, But I think that's what makes the best teams, when you can actually come down on can we actually talk about this, and can we be critical about certain things that's going on, so that we can be better. How else are you gonna get better? That's my opinion and point of view. But you did say that you've had good communities. So what has made them good? What has made those communities good?
Yeah, I think so. The two communities that have come to mind for me are, one, this space that we have on Sundays, and so good. I think some of the things that make it good are the fact that we are I feel like we're good listeners. So there is often a very loose agenda for what we're going to do during that time together, but it is centrally focused on like catching up with one another, seeing how we're doing, what's been going on in each other's lives, and then like, okay, we're going to pray about that, or we're going to like, just talking about it is supporting each other, and there might not be like any quick fix or anything like that, but you just have someone else who can like help you shoulder that.
That's true.
So
That's good. I want to highlight that because someone told me a couple months ago, they were like, how do you do that? How do you sit intentionally, really, not just intentionally, but you're genuinely interested in what the person is saying? How do you, were you always that way? And it was kind of, I was
asking you about that for themselves, like, or how to create a community.
No, they were asking for themselves. And how do you, I guess, observing me and then saying, how do you do that? Was that something you learned, or you just like that? You know? And I honestly, even as you were saying it, I'm like, I learned how to be a good listener. You know, I wasn't always. I remember being the interjector. Oh, right, you know? You know, wanting to tell my story or wanting to speak while you're speaking, because I came up with something that was like so amazing. I had to say it, right?
Yeah.
Everything's
I find myself doing that more, and I'm like, Anna, you know better. Stop that.
You know, everything that comes out of my mouth is golden. No, not at all. But, you know, that's how I felt, I remember. And so it was something that I learned. So I thought it was great, the question. But then I started thinking about it, and I go, wow, like, it does take effort. And you know, it takes, like, let me just pause. Let me almost like self-control. Like, let me just, I want to listen. But then it was, I care. I care about these layered growth. I care about what this person is saying. I am invested at this time. Even if I didn't plan it, even if I didn't schedule it, like, I'm invested. So I just want to highlight that, because I definitely see that, and you always have since we met. Just like a genuine interest in someone. And so when you say, you know, you want to be seen as if you see, you know, but being a good listener has, I think for me, has been such a great lesson into creating community and being part of communities that matter, you know, for my life. And so having the group here, and by the way, that's been kind of like a copycat of what, you know, Pete Gregg and the people at Lectio 365 and what they do in Ireland. It's Ireland, right? Dublin.
So.
And just the way they're just like, we just won't, it's like we want to be together. Not that we want to be part of that thing. It's that we want to be together. We want to be in each other's lives. So I kind of like that we have that. So say that.
For sure. Yeah, no, it is really nice, and I think that's one of the things that like sticks out for our community here. And then the other one's honestly my grad school community.
Nice.
So they, and I think it also has a lot to do with listening. I think listening is like an offering to a community, which I don't know that people think about it very much. Like what you're saying, like authentic, like good listening. Just because I think we, at least in America, are in a society that values like time and efficiency instead of a genuine, like, I'm just going to be here with you.
Yeah.
So I think really good listening, really, it takes longer. And it asks you to go a bit deeper. So, so I think there is that like sense of deep listening that you're trying to do. So my grad school community, I think your whole time there was you're investigating like why you like making what you like making, and it is very like self-centered in that way, almost like self-discovery. But you're also then sharing it with people, and you're required to share it with people. Whereas in life you might not be required to share with people. And so you are automatically put in a place of kind of like vulnerability. And they did a really good job of treating that with honor and respect and care. So it was really a nice place to be in. And then any critique that would come out of that, at least for me, the experience that I had was very like I could tell that they were just trying to help further me.
Yeah.
Or make my work better, or whatever it was. That was in a positive sense, not in a we're gonna take down your work and it's horrible. You're horrible because you make horrible work. It was very much centered on like, okay, we're gonna take the best thing that we found in this and try to make it better, and we're gonna look at everything and like how can we continue to elevate this.
Grad school is good like that too. You know, I think
so it's just sorry.
It's such hard part.
I was just thinking about this today because I don't know what brought it up in my mind, but grad school for me was a very interesting time because it's when some stuff hit the fan in my life, and I was just like
episode 5.
But it was just like, it was a really hard season. And I feel I've heard that before from other people, like grad school, it does something different to your life.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly what that is, but so that was my reaction to you. It's just like, that aspect is great, but the rest of it was really hard.
It was a struggle. That's for real. That's for real. But I think it's more from, in the sense that like when you go to undergrad, it's a little bit of everything. So there's not like a specific, right? You're just trying things out, or if you already know what you want to do, you're kind of just, but you're still like needing to like, let me just do these other things too. And it's very exploration still stage. When you get to grad school, it's like, I know that this is it's like a specialization, even though there are different, topics within those, but I love that the people coming into that space are not all on the same track. Sure. You're in the same sort of, let's say, specialization. I don't know what it's about, but like, grad school specific for that thing. But everybody that comes in has a different something to bring into that space concerning that thing. And so when I think of community, I go, yeah, there's something to be said when somebody goes, no, it should be everything and everyone. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to be said about that, right? Because welcoming, inclusiveness and all that. But there's something to also be said about the fact that what are you there for? And so if I say faith matters to me, someone to which that may not matter, it might be a little harder, but that doesn't mean we can't be in community. It just means that you're gonna deal with that. That's gonna be a thing. But if we're coming into the space and you have all the different perspectives, and you have all these different point of view, concerning whatever you came together for, so if community is the thing you're coming together for. And you go, I want to build relationship with people so that, I have a place where I'm held accountable, or I have a place where I'm seen and somebody will miss me if I'm not here. I have a place where I can share my life. There you go. Like, that is what community is. That's what you're looking for in community. You come in like that, and now you have all these people with all the different ways that they want to do that. And it's hard. So grad school hard, this hard. It's hard and messy. But when you're doing it like for real, I feel that's where we say, these are the good things that I got out of it. Yeah. So this might be a little off topic from what you were just talking about, but I'm thinking about like when things are hard in community, because like nothing's ever perfect, like we already said. And I think I definitely heard this from like a life coach that I had, but I think when you get hurt, or anyway, when people experience pain, it's even more painful because, or this is not coming out right, but when people experience pain, they're afraid of it, or maybe like try to not be in pain because they don't think that they'll be comforted in that pain. So when you are, I don't know, when you have a paper cut, like nobody likes paper cuts, but you're like, oh, this is just annoying, and I know it will get better, and I know what to do with it, and like I can handle this. So in community,
I think there is such a tough like thing of being, I am hurt by this. I don't know what I can do with this. And like, I don't want to be here anymore. That like quick checkout that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's because they don't think that anything will change or that they won't be comforted in that pain or whatever it is. And it's a very like hopeless place to be in. To think like, I'm not going to be comforted in this pain, therefore I have to leave. And nothing's going to change about the situation, which means that I have to leave it. And I don't like, I don't know that's why everybody leaves a community. There are very many legitimate other reasons that you would leave a community.
Yeah, I mean, this whole conversation is not covered. Like, everything encompassing.
And I mean, like, what I mean by that is specifically, like, this isn't, what I'm trying to say is, like, this is a community that I would generally say, like, hypothetically is one that is healthier. Like, it's not one that is like, this is unhealthy and you absolutely should leave.
Right, exactly.
It's, this is a generally healthy community and like, I'm out.
Right. And that can happen. I mean, it's not like everything is going to work out all the time.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to get to is this conversation of like, are we just leaving or are we staying to try to figure this out like you were talking about before? And I wonder how many times that like kind of voice on our shoulder or whatever is telling us like nothing's really going to change. It's not the place, like whatever. And what it would be like to be hopeful in that case and say like, if I say something, then I will be taken into account. Yes. If I say something, they will hear me. And I don't know. There's just those thoughts are kind of like in my head right now as we're talking.
It would be great to hear what others think about that and share. But I think for me, I think of myself a pretty optimistic person trying to, I like to connect with people. I like to know that there's someone there that I can talk to, I like those things. So I'm not someone who has difficulty, let's say, wanting to connect with someone and build relationship. With that said, though, through the years, it's been difficult to maintain some relationships or a consistent community. And like I said before, recently that's become even harder for all the different reasons that might be. But one thing remains the same, and that's me. Right? So the common denominator, I'm the one coming into these communities. So where am I in those moments? Like I said before, like where am I in those moments? And so if I come in and I'm, in the past I'm maybe pretty optimistic and not too much care in my mind about what things are going to look like. Now there's probably a little bit more anxiety, right? I have more experience. I have good and bad experiences, and I'm going into these communities with a little more caution and hesitation, and and sometimes I'm not looking for any community. And I'm just like, no, I need time to, heal, to recover, to get to the point where I remember what I want a community for in the first place. So I want to mention that because, we're not sitting in our homes going, it must be perfect somewhere. No, I don't think any community is perfect. I don't believe that at all. I do like to learn how they got to the place where it's been good and it's helped the person grow, and long-term community are very interesting to me. How have you kept that going? Kind of like asking that couple who's been married for 50 years, how did you do that? It's kind of like that. But when I look and self-reflect, what has been hard in community for me, why did I lose those friendships or relationships, why did those things get broken off? And I assess, I look at myself and say, where was I in that moment? How was I feeling? How did those things affect me? And then how does it make me feel about community now? So we do have our community here, and we get together here, and I love it. And I love the just intimate, very personable time together. But I've learned a lot from the good and the bad, the ups and the downs of the different communities I've been a part of. I don't have a book on how to deal, because everything is different and everyone is different. But I do go back to, where am I in that space? And I touched the mic, and I'm sorry if that went boom. But, where am I right now? How am I feeling? Where am I emotionally? Sometimes I think I've gone into community, and I'll share just like a little bit of some personal, but I've been in a community, and I think I've gotten an idealistic view. Oh, this is going to be great, and then when something happens, I've reacted, and just go, why? What is going on? This is not supposed to happen, and if anybody can relate, it's just, I remember that happening once or twice, and just thinking, what just happened, and how do I deal with this now? I definitely remember not handling things well, right? Can I be truthful, right? I definitely remember not handling or reacting well to certain situations. But the hurt and the pain is hard. It's hard, having gotten hurt and then having to face the community or a person or a situation and having to deal with it. It's just so difficult to do that. And I think I'm still learning and growing in that space. I think I always will be. The common denominator, myself. So would you say the same? Would you definitely, it's not like we want to encourage you to be part, it's just, it's complex. Humans, we're complex, but we do need each other, and we've seen that need, heard that need from people around us. And definitely there's been places where that's just gone wrong, but how do you see it overall?
I think I come from the opposite end of the spectrum to you of being open to community. I think I'm very shy and reserved, and I like to be the person that's on the wall watching how this whole thing is unfolding and picking and choosing, I like this person, I like that person, I like that person. Don't care, but I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I can hang with these people.
Yes. I don't think I know you're not alone in this, so people are probably watching
So that's my thing. I think it's, I don't know if I'm very sensitive is probably the right word. I'm very sensitive, and I don't make myself known. So what I guess I mean by that is if something were to go sideways in the community or in our community or whatever, I'm the person that's might have seen that coming, and that's my cue to exit. I'm out. I wasn't that invested anyway. I only like these 3 people. I'm out. Which I don't love that attitude.
It's so funny. I see it in your eyes as you're saying it. I'm like that.
It's not the right. I at least for again going back to these values that we have of the type of community that I think Christians are supposed to foster. That is very self-centered, what I just said. straight. It's just very self-centered. It's all about me. I picked my people that I want to associate with, and as soon as things got hard, I left.
Yeah.
Or I checked out mentally.
Yeah.
Maybe even not physically, but mentally. It's very selfish. So I think that, but it's also very quiet.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it easy for me because I didn't put too much in, so it's not too hard to leave. So I think that is something that's my work to be done when I am in communities. I have to talk myself into participating. And so that doesn't mean that I neglect the watching or perceiving or sensing or whatever sensitivity that I have. But it does mean remembering that I have influence over situations and it is my responsibility to contribute if I want to see something different because I am part of this community. Yes, so all that to say, like, that is my work as a person. And I think, like you're saying, you have your work as a person to contribute to the community.
Right.
And so I think everyone has their own things that they have to do. And healthy communities are when you're confronting those things in yourself and aware of those things in yourself and are saying, okay, I'm gonna keep, and most of the people or hopefully all of the people are trying to do that. And so it is very much, I feel like that's a very also humble posture because you can't then be hypocritical and be like, you're doing this wrong and I'm gonna call you out for it and read you everything that you've done. Yeah. Because you're fully aware, like, man, I don't do that, but I do this. And like, which is worse? I don't know. Like, there's nothing but, like, you know. Yeah. So, and
what community is going to allow me to work that out, right? Like, give me the space to go, you know what? I'm fully aware that I didn't handle that well or that I still need to grow in that area. And then what you get in response is like, that's okay. And you're like, thank you, you know? Or like, yeah, you're on the right track and we love that you said that, keep going. Like, absolutely. We don't want you to stay there either. Absolutely. And it's not a condescending, like, yeah, you shouldn't be there. But like, yeah, we don't want you to stay there either. That doesn't sound good. Kind of care. So I love that we gave two different perspectives. I think that it's just the two of us and look at the two different perspectives we have. Can you imagine in bigger and larger groups? So whatever the case may be and where we may find ourselves, just, you know, if community is something that we are seeking, which most of us seem to be, there is community to be had. And at least if we have conversations like this, it'll help us understand what others are seeking and needing and how we can do better to be there for them. Right? What else can we do but that?